Welcome to this week's Ned's AFL Unpopular Opinions, where a host down, Dylan Lynch, is unfortunately not with us. He's had a family issue this week, so he's away. We wish him and his family all the best. So we'll jump into round 6, what it was, and round 7 coming up. Joining me, as he does each and every week, Alastair Lynch, the great man.
Rocky, good to be on. Yes, it was an interesting week of footy. It wasn't too many great games, but plenty to talk about again.
It finished pretty well yesterday.
Finished well.
Easter Sunday. Get a few Easter eggs in over the weekend.
Yeah, no, I reckon I put on 5 kilos over the weekend. Just gnaw my way through them and went into that coma afterwards, the chocolate coma, and had a sleep.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect Monday afternoon for you, because we were down in Sydney, which we're going to get to as well a little bit later in this episode. And Ryan Cook is going to join us as well. He's going to jump in for the whole show today.
Yes, g'day boys. Good to be back on for the full thing. Hope you've had a good Easter.
So you've jumped over from the NRL.
Yeah, I mean, when the chips are down, you got to get your snout in the trough, they say. So.
Yeah, you certainly do. And
it's a double invoice this week, is it?
Yeah, something like that. Couldn't have recorded it yesterday. I might have got double time, but here I am on a Tuesday.
Yes, and your boys, how are the Hawks? We up and about them, or
definitely
a bit nervous?
Not nervous. I thought taking the Cats to the sword like that's always, there's plenty to improve on, but yeah, yesterday couldn't buy a goal. I think we had like 22 scoring opportunities, and Sicily is still an experiment up forward. Couldn't take a mark to save himself. So a lot to dissect from that, but definitely not nervous. Just feel like it's coming back to the pack a little bit. Much better than that Port Adelaide game. So yeah, good things to take away.
I wouldn't lose too much sleep.
Nah.
They were pretty good. Just got some good numbers through the midfield. Just, they didn't finish off the work. It's a big task being able to flip back and forward Sicily, every game with Sicily. And, maybe he obviously was a little off with his kicking, field kicking and scoring. So, might be carrying an injury, might be just one of those times that just out a bit of touch. But he's such an important player.
He's very good when he's up and going, but is he a bit hot and cold, like, for a captain, do you think? Like, he's so...
Emotionally, I think he is. Yesterday, there was way too much playing for free kicks, arguing with the umpires going on, and from the whole team, not just him. But he's definitely the catalyst for it.
He's probably the driver of it, and then it filters down. Like, I wouldn't imagine the best captains in the comp. They're pretty level, I would have said.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly been fiery, but he's managed it pretty well over the last few years, hasn't he? And I suppose on the back of good form, it's easy to manage it, but a little bit volatile on the back of missing a few targets and being a bit frustrated, probably with his own game. Let it get to him a little bit. So, no, I know what you mean, but not a great concern.
You swung, obviously, you played forward and back. Did you do it in game that often?
Yeah.
Difficult?
It depends where your head's at. Because I reckon at early stages, when I was sort of 19, 20, you're almost thinking you're getting moved because you're not playing well. Especially in the 80s, the only reason you got moved was because you're going shit house, basically. So once you got it right in your head that it's a pat on the back and endorsement from the coach that you need to go somewhere else to help the team, I think it's a lot easier to move in-game, especially going forward. So I was predominantly a defender, and then I think when you're up and going, seeing the ball well and in good form down back, it's much easier then to go forward and take a few marks. It's a much bigger task to go start forward and stay forward. Playing key forward role is a bloody tough role. So I think flipping forward when you've got a good half under your belt, that can be okay to pinch hit, but starting's very different.
And in the name of the show, Unpopular Opinions from the weekend, anything jumping out of Easter?
We can start with one. The putrid surface of the SCG. Now, we got there early, and we won't chuck under the bus one of the officials that we were talking to, but they were pretty disappointed with the condition of the ground, and I think that it was... So we're recording this Tuesday 22nd. So 3 weeks ago, that Bocelli concert was on. So it wasn't 3 weeks ago that the turf was laid, say 2.5 weeks ago, and it looked that way. So we could see, especially on TV, but walking out on the ground, the seams where it had been rolled out. Now, you couldn't pull it up. It wasn't that poorly set, but you could see the grass hadn't gone across the seams. And then as the game went on, it was so slippery. So I think it's just really poor from the SCG, which is one of the great venues, I feel. To watch the game, and the playing surface is normally first class, but I thought it made an impact on the quality of the game.
I think it definitely did. They're probably lucky that all players walked away with no injuries.
Well, that was one thing, and almost said it during the game. You probably did cover that for a Triple M, that you just don't want someone to go down with an injury here, because even regardless of fault, it would look like the poor conditions contributed to an injury. So yeah, lucky. But it impacted the quality of the game.
It certainly did. Like it was almost like a beach. So there was a lot of sand, and players couldn't turn, could they? It wasn't ideal, and I think both teams were really unhappy with the surface, and it certainly impacted that end of the ground. So that was disappointing from the SCG staff.
Well, the Sydney Swans didn't know about it.
Yeah, okay.
Well, and that the surface was getting replaced at that time, until obviously they've gone and trained there. But they weren't aware. So it was all down left of screen, down the forward 50, but then there was patches down the other end of the ground as well. So that difference of going from a established surface to the new surface was change. And then the current surface there, and you can see why they did replace some of it. Yeah. Because there was no integrity in the soil. I mean, it was just slippery as buggery. So, not great conditions for a professional competition.
I was very surprised the AFL ticked off and allowed it to happen, because they're normally very anal with stuff like that they don't allow any players in danger or anything, but maybe they didn't check it off.
But realistically, have you ever heard of the AFL saying, no, we're not playing?
Yeah.
So that hasn't happened. So I think the rule isn't there an official? I think there's an official from each team supposed to inspect the ground the day before. Now, I think Port Adelaide trained there, and they wouldn't have been too happy with it. So I'm not sure that you can actually pull it up and say, no, we're going to delay the game.
Yeah, we couldn't really shift it, could you? You'd have to go out west, I suppose.
Shift it to Homebush.
Yeah, head out there.
Well, and that's a mess with the Easter show. The motorbikes on it.
Popular opinion I want to give on the SCG, though, is it's the best looking crowd in Australia by a long, long way.
In what capacity?
You know exactly in what capacity. The people that sit in those stands, females and males, not that I'm looking at the males, but it's a stunning crowd at the SCG. They turn up in numbers, and when they're going well, we're obviously not playing the best footy at the moment, but gorgeous crowd.
The Bondi Beautifuls come out, you're saying?
Everywhere.
The theatre goers are there, no doubt about that. And it's full. It's been full for a few years now. And it's the whole, it's the event. So it's not just the game. They wander in, then they wander all over to Surrey Hills for refreshments.
While we're on that, before we get to the next topic, I was lucky enough to be down there with Lynchy and experience a bit of post-game with Alastair Lynch. We went to the Dolphin, is it? In Surrey Hills.
There's only one pub in Surrey Hills, Dolphin Hotel.
It's one of the best venues, Ryan. If you're ever in Sydney and get an opportunity to go to a game, you have to venture down there.
Yeah, I must have missed the invite.
Well, I reckon we spoke about this a couple of years ago, because it is, like, getting out of the SCG is hard. And
shocking.
And again, you were down there for Triple M on the weekend, so we couldn't get a flight for about 4 hours afterwards. So just a little 10-minute wander across to Surrey Hills.
Wet the whistle.
Couple of light refreshments. Yep. I didn't realise Rocky's not a drinker.
No, he's been off it for a year or so.
Almost 12 months, So a few soda waters down there, a few pizzas though.
Yeah, no, I tell you what. A couple of, the Hahn Super Dries or and a pepperoni pizza. It went real well.
Oh, real smooth.
So worth doing that. So pencil that in for next time you're in Sydney.
Who's the manager down there? Is it
Sammy? Sammy will look after you.
Just get in there. He's a big Carlton man. Carlton man. He thinks the Blues are back, which I'm not convinced they are.
That's right.
So if I name drop you blokes,
if you go down there,
I get thrown out.
Oh, you'll get VIP service. There's a couple of locals in the corner, Lynch's mates.
Just ask for Ray.
And a text from AFL House.
Try and avoid those guys. No, they'll lead you astray. But what did you take out of the weekend, Ryan?
I'm going to go early here, boys. I'm going to say Bevo's Coach of the Year if the Dogs make finals this season. Sitting 8th, and Bont was back over the weekend, but the position that they're sitting in right now, the injuries they've had, Waitman's been out, Bont's been out for the last 6 or 7 weeks, Ugelhagen. I think he's auditioning for another role next year. From what I've heard, and what the big talking heads say in AFL world, Bevo's not going to be coaching there next year. But I think if he has them playing finals, he'd be tough to beat for Coach of the Year. So that's my unpopular opinion.
It's a big call. Yeah. If they play finals, if they don't play finals.
If they do play finals, I think he's a lock.
Well,
lock.
Bontempelli, how good is he? I know that I've got a love affair with him, but his first half, he hasn't played for 8 weeks, 20-2 at halftime.
Name me
extraordinary.
Another player that gets up for a game off that sort of a spell so quickly.
Not like that. I don't think
play like that.
I don't think anyone in the competition could come back in after a calf, an 8-week calf. So it was pretty. I think he did it down in Tassie, didn't he, in the last pre-season game? Yeah. So pretty severe, and he's getting on. He'd be 30 odd now, wouldn't he? 30.
That sounds pretty young still.
Yeah, well, I mean, in AFL, in terms of AFL, and just roll back in and do what he did. He was super impressive.
Well, on that, and talking about and Sam Darcy going down with that injury, which thankfully it wasn't an ACL. It was still pretty severe by the sounds of things, but thankfully not an ACL. Who is the most important player at the Western Bulldogs, or who's that player you can't afford to lose? So, like, if you're the opposition coach and you've got the right to take one player out of the Bulldogs team, who would it be? Because, like, the way he's emerging, Sam Darcy, he plays a pivotal role. But as you said, Marcus Bontempelli can do so much, and his size, like 6'3", 6'4", he's lined up at centre half back, but he can play key post forward. So who would be the most important player at the Bulldogs, do you think?
At the Dogs, it's a nice little leadway as well, Lynchy. We're going to get to that in the next segment as well. We're going to go through every team. But you've gone early. But at the Dogs, I think
good. Who's hosting this?
I think it's still the Bont for me, because he can go forward, kick goals. Well, Darcy's so important as well, but potentially in a year or two. Well. Yeah, but I think Bont. I think Bont is the most. I think when he's up and going, like if he had played a couple of games earlier in the year, I think they probably win. The Collingwood game, I think if he's out there, they win that game. I think he's still the most important.
I agree.
As good as Darcy is.
I was going because like he is such a unique athlete, Darcy, but Bontempelli, probably the greatest Bulldog of all time. And come back like he did. Yeah, and he can play in so many different positions. So, yeah, I think we'll stick with Bontempelli, but Darcy is very quickly on the rise.
Bont over Bob Murphy, you reckon, for greatest dog?
Yeah, well, just.
Come on now. I'm going to go with one. It's probably a little bit early as well, and maybe they just had an off day, but the Gold Coast Suns still pretending.
Oh, hang on.
They're
2 weeks ago.
They're still tickling us, aren't they?
2 weeks ago, you had them in the finals.
I think they'll still play finals, but you can't go down to Melbourne and lose to Richmond. I mean, this team, Richmond's rebuilding. Gold Coast, you're sitting on top of the ladder, undefeated. Go out there and produce a game like that.
Yeah, I know.
And make Taranto and Hopper look like they're 23 again.
It was a very disappointing game, and we've seen it a number of times. Now, I think they've improved. I reckon they've improved greatly, but it's still going back to Dimmer's comments last year. The club's still got to grow up. And in those games, and there was some good signs, especially against Adelaide Crows late. They didn't have to get over the line there. But that away trip just grinded out. And again, as you're saying, you're playing against a team that's redeveloping. Very disappointing game.
It's probably a good lesson for them, but you've got to start well on the road. Doesn't matter who you come up against. Like Richmond, if you start well against them in the first 15 minutes, you probably get it on your terms for the rest of the game. Richmond started well, came out through the first few punches, and then they're on the back foot, and they got their tails up, Richmond, and away they went. Their older players were very good as well on the weekend.
Well, their older players were very good, but what happens if you don't start well, as you're sort of saying, the kids get confidence and they actually start performing. If they get sat on their backside, it's hard for a young guy in his first or second year to respond and turn it around, but if they're up and going early, it's hard to pull those young kids back, and they've got some talent, that's for sure.
The other couple of teams that we probably need to touch on, Freo, getting rolled by Melbourne, who were up and about. they needed a win, the Melbourne Footy Club. They certainly got that on the weekend. But Fremantle, their aspirations, everyone was talking about them being top 4 this year, taking the next step. Their start to the season's been subpar by a long way, and they rolled out at the MCG and produced that.
Well, it's that bit of starch in their game just to really grind through when you have to. And non-Victorian clubs don't get the chance to play at the MCG too often. So when you get those opportunities, you crave it, and you got to grab it. And I think it's, credit to Melbourne, credit to Max Gawn.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, he turned things around. But for Freo, just to get it done, to get their opportunity, and you got a club on their knees, everyone's starting to pot the coach, everyone's starting to pot the players. You got them on their knees, you just got to put them away. So yeah, disappointing from Freo. But they showed a bit of that late last year too when they fell away.
They certainly did. The other one is the Good Friday game, North Melbourne. I don't know if you've got the, I know we don't often talk about it, but the odds for the wooden spoon potentially this year, I think they're as disappointing as anyone.
They can't win the wooden spoon though.
Well,
where's West Coast going to get some points
West
from?
Coast just lost to Essendon. They probably should have won that game of footy. Do they pinch one or two? I don't think North... Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they'll win the spoon.
Can't take points off them.
But Good Friday, an opportunity... They were deplorable and then completely fell away in the last quarter. They showed absolutely no fight whatsoever. They had 9 goals put on them really quickly in that last quarter.
Yeah, frustrating for North supporters that are hanging in there, thinking this year's when they're going to turn things around. Had the win over Melbourne, wasn't it? So, but no, they've fallen away. So, plenty of pressure on them. But again, like we spoke about with some of the Richmond older players, can't expect the young kids, the first and second yearers, to do it. It's got to be led by their senior players. Their senior players aren't playing at the level to drag those kids along, to give them a silver service run into it, and the kids can play well then, but you need just old stars to fire a shot.
North are not even on the second line of betting for the spoon. You say you got West Coast $1.50, Richmond $4.50, North $5. So.
$5. Maybe a little bit of juice around there if they've topped up their midfield really strongly in the draft and probably forgotten about their bookends to a degree, but they do have enough talent on that list to be performing a lot better. And go back all the way to Thursday night. I know it's a long time ago now. Can Collingwood win the flag?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but what they got through the midfield, their key pillars at either end are strong. Yeah, Dan McStay, he looked imposing in that first quarter. Like they didn't go inside 50 that well, but they banged a couple in. He's taken 2 big contested grabs. The other goal they kicked was big aerial contest, got the ball to ground, and was it Myercheck did the job. They can, and Dan Houston to come back into that side at an enormous amount of run, they could do it. Darcy Cameron's just a solid as a ruckman. They're very impressive, I would have thought.
Bo McCreary always has an impact in these big games as well. He's one that never gets mentioned. I think he kicked 1 or 2 goals in that, but another handy player that you can have to just throw forward. I was going to ask you guys, do you think Collingwood's as scary as they were a couple of years ago when they won the flag, or still like a little bit below that?
I think probably a touch below, but if they keep going, I mean, Brisbane allowed Nick Dacos as well, if they had their time again, they'd go with a match-up from the start. He was super in that first half. I think he had 20 plus, and then Berry tried to go to him and get him done, but just couldn't quite, and then they dropped it in the last quarter and just let it go.
They dropped it because Nick or Collingwood were manipulating his starting points, which just sort of mucked up the positioning for the Lions. How can you tag him? Can you just could Jared go with him the whole way everywhere? And how does that muck up the structured, say, down back when Nick goes to half back?
Yeah, I think you probably just have to try and go the whole way with him, whoever it is. And I think Berry could do it, go the whole way. It's physical presence. We've seen it a little bit on Sunday when Rosie was getting tagged by Jordan as a half backer, who, again, I don't know Brownlow calculations, but Connor Rosie would have to be coming up off that half back.
He's always been one of yours.
His impact, but you have to just go with him the whole way because his ability to turn those 1-2s, and when he starts to line break and run and carry, that's what you got to take off Nick Dacos. You don't mind if he gets the handballs in close and not getting the 1-2 overlap run, because he makes the rest of the team look fast by his leg speed and his agility in and around the contest. So I think they probably, if they come up against Collingwood again, I don't know, they probably play them at the back end of the year or potentially in finals. I'd imagine they'll probably go Berry the whole way with him.
So the tough thing, how does it work when Nick's in the midfield and then steps out?
Well, you just have to adapt to it.
So you've got to be communicating.
Yeah, so that comes down to team. And Brisbane are good enough, I would have thought, to be able to adjust to that. So if he's stepping out of the contest, someone has to come in, whether it be a half-backer or a half-forward. I think when you're tagging inside, it's just you're playing with 17 effectively.
Yeah.
So you take that match up off the board, that sits off the board, and then you've got 17 around that, and you've just got to mix and match as best you can.
They seem to crave it. And chatting to Nick after the game, he said they love it when he gets a tag because he can manipulate the starting points and his whole team know what's going on there. And yeah, it seemed to have Brisbane on the back foot. And he obviously snuck forward to kick that goal in the third as well.
Yeah, really, really impressive. We will move on. The one other thing before we move on, we probably should touch on is the social media trolls out there. We've seen Lachie Neale come out pretty strongly on Friday. I mean, if you lose a multi or you want to hide behind your computer screen, it's pretty weak, in my opinion, weak as piss, to be honest. And you wouldn't say it to their face. And, I mean, there is players out there just competing. It's their job to go out there and play footy. We need to check ourselves sometimes. If you wouldn't say it to their face, don't type it to them. And I mean, I think there was death threats and whatnot amongst it. It's pretty poor form, and we need to take it out of society.
How much of this goes on? Because as I've never been on social media, and but hear about it. So in your halcyon days, and I know that was a few years ago now, how often would you get some feedback after a game? Yeah,
pretty strong, pretty often, and particularly back end of my career, I probably didn't have the impact at Port Adelaide as much. And obviously betting, fantasy footy, it's a big part of society now, and it's pretty brutal sometimes. And if you get caught reading it, a lot of it slides, like for an Instagram, for instance, it slides to a request folder, which you just don't check. As a player, you don't check. But I mean, on X and stuff like that, if you fall into the trap, there can be some pretty brutal feedback out there.
Do you still get it? Because you're quite opinionated on X these days. So
yeah, especially when I go for Trump. When I
exactly.
It's still I mean, I put that post up not long ago, and everyone just comes at me about CTE and stuff like that. You can't have an opinion, and people just. If you have an opinion or you're pretty strong one way or the other, people just come for you. And it is a bit embarrassing. You can't have a healthy discussion anymore about it. It's personal attacks and whatnot. And if someone's in the wrong frame of mind, I mean, we will get to a position one day where someone does something to themselves off the back of this, and we need to prevent it and need to stop it before it happens. We've seen it in schools already with young kids that have taken their lives, unfortunately. So it is a part of society. So if you are struggling out there as well with anything, make sure you reach out to Lifeline and get in touch with them. But you'd hate to see something happen. I mean, let's just be happy with each other, and we get to go and watch your team and support your teammates out there.
Have you seen, don't want to know names, but have you seen some teammates really struggle with it? And obviously at Port Adelaide with Willie Ollie's copped a bit of flack with the racial vilification stuff.
Well, you often see players have to step away for periods of time, and I think even not Boakey necessarily with that stuff, but he spoke pretty strongly about when they lost. When he was captain, he felt like it was all him and a burden on him. So then you pile on with the other stuff of that social media, it can really start to affect players. So I think we've just got to check ourselves a little bit, make sure that, at the end of the day, we're out there playing a team sport and footy. Let's support each other. Yes, you can be disappointed with the loss or whatnot, but there's no point to attack someone on social media. So we'll leave that there. Make sure you pull your heads in. If that is you out there, we're going to jump into who's the most important player at your team. Who can you not afford to lose? All right, now we are going to jump into who's the most important player for your team off the back of Sam Darcy going down with what we suspected to be an ACL, which we know has been cleared of now, which is thankful, but a fractured knee, so it will be out for an extended period, probably the season, but you never know. Hopefully he can get back. He's very important to their makeup. Lynch, you wanted to touch on every team in the competition, maybe not their best player, but who's the one player you can't lose? Yeah,
and we'll come up with the Sam Darcy injury thing, and he's probably the most important player. But thinking through it over the last 24, 48 hours. I think I'd nominate Bontempelli still as the most important player because, one, he can change the game in the middle of the field, but also can go forward and mark. Sam Darcy, very close, and he's coming with a rush, I think, to be the most important player. At 208 centimetres, to compete like he can in the air, he can polish up some poor inside forward 50 kicks, I would have thought so. But I'm going to go Bontempelli still at this stage. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Bontempelli at the Dogs. I think he's the most important. We've seen what he was able to do in that first half. He gets them up and going. I think Darcy's coming. He's what he was able to do against Darcy Moore and then Harris Andrews as well. I think in the next couple of years he's going to be probably their most important, but I think the Western Bulldogs is still Marcus Bontempelli. You're in agreement?
Yeah, I tend to agree. The only other name I could maybe entertain is Adam Treloar, who sort of adds that little bit of grittiness and toughness over the last few seasons that he's been there.
Well, yeah, and the only reason I'd say no to Adzi is a very good player is you've got Libba in there, you've got Bont in there, you've got sort of similar type of players.
Yep.
So I reckon, and that's where we'll get away from the best player.
Yep.
In some of these discussions, and I think with some of the players that I'll nominate, you'll see there's probably a bit of a bias. But who sort of can't be replaced? And if you're playing a team, the opposition coach, if he can take one magnet off the board, who do you think it'd be? So I reckon that'd be an interesting discussion.
Yeah,
and some I struggled with.
Let's jump into it. We'll go just down the ladder. So Collingwood, who's the one player that they can't afford to lose?
Well, I think the best of Darcy Moore would be very hard to replace. But again, this is where we will drift into the best player. Nick Dacos can do so much. Like, he can rip a game apart off half-back, half-forward in the midfield. So I'm going Nick Dacos for Collingwood.
Darcy Moore was my first choice because they've got enough forwards to replace, someone like Myercheck or De Goey, and then Dacos. They've got side bottom Pendles through the midfield. So yeah, Moore would be my answer there. Yeah,
I tend to agree with Lynchy only on the basis that I think their leg speed would catch him out if Dacos wasn't there. I think if you took him out of the midfield, who do you replace him with? Side bottom is a star, Pendlebury's a star. But they don't have that explosiveness, in my opinion. De Goey can potentially do it when he's up and going, but we haven't seen enough of him over the last couple of years consistently. I think if you take Dacos out, which the Giants did really well in round one, I think Bedford got him done, and then they have that really good win. Gave Collingwood their only loss for the season. Dacos' impact was right down in that game, so I would lean towards Nick Dacos in that one. The Brisbane Lions, I think we could probably all agree without going too far in it. I think Harris Andrews is still their most important player. I think across half-back, he sets up that wall once the footy goes inside 50, and there's no one in the team, I think, that can play that key post as well as him as an intercept marker.
Oh, yeah, interesting you said that. I reckon clearly Harris Andrews. Yeah, just he can cover a lot of issues that may pop up the field with his either one-on-one work, and that was one of the great contests he had with Sam Darcy at Norwood Oval. But I think he covers up a lot, either one-on-one or the intercept marking. So, yeah, I think Harris Andrews clearly. And again, why it's not Lachie Neale is because you've got Dunkley, you've got Ashcroft, you've got McCluggage, you've got a heap of midfielders. So, yep, definitely Harris Andrews.
Yeah, $1.10 favourite. We can definitely move on from that. That's an easy answer.
Well, let's head down the freeway and head to the Gold Coast Suns. Interested to see who we select here because I've got someone in my back pocket, but I think their ruckman is the most important for the Gold Coast Suns. A big Witsy, and I know that they've got the ruckman in waiting, ready to come in.
That's the reason I haven't gone Wits because you've got Ned Moyle in the twos. That is staggering. He could be playing for half the clubs in the competition at the moment. So I haven't gone Wits. Trying to work out who, though. And so I've narrowed it down to either Miller for standards across the field, Rao or Collins, structurally with Collins. I ended up finishing on Matt Rao. Just how he competes through the middle of the ground. They can't replicate that. I mean, Anderson's very good, and Miller sets enormous standards. Structurally, Collins, but I'm going Matt Rao. Who you ended up?
Yeah, I'm going with Wits. I think their ruckman's their most important for the Gold Coast Suns. He gives their midfielders first look. Like Ballard's not there as well, so McAndrew. I think they've got enough down back. I think they've got enough down forward, and they've got enough smalls through the midfield. I think their ruckman's their most important.
Yeah.
I'd say Matty Rowell as well, because he's the $7 second favourite for the Brownlow as we speak. Give me the grass eater, Matty Rowell.
Let's go to the other expansion club, the GWS Giants. Who's the most important?
You want to have a crack at this?
It's got to be Toby. They're totally different. We've seen them without Toby many times. I think he's the obvious answer, surely.
I think the skipper as well, yeah. I think what he provides for him in that front half, he's got the mongrel about himself. He's got the maturity now. He can still impact the game when he goes to the midfield, his ability to hit the scoreboard. I think you're right. When he's not there, you go to their back line. I think they've got one of the best defenders in the competition as well in Sam Taylor, but I think you're probably right about he's almost their barometer player. They feed off his energy.
I haven't gone Toby Green, obviously great player and probably their best player.
You've gone Jake Stringer.
Not quite the package. I had it down to Sam Taylor or Jesse Hogan. Jesse Hogan is the most dominant contested marking player in the league at the moment, I think, in that forward 50 along with Sam Darcy. So I think he makes them look a lot better and gives them enormous direction. So I'm going Jesse Hogan.
Well, we've seen him on the weekend not being there. Yeah. Obviously, probably one of the worst games of AFL footy you'll ever see. The Giants and Crows
stay through that one.
Didn't get to any great heights, but Hogan wasn't there and the Giants didn't have any avenues towards goal.
This one.
Their competitor on the weekend, the Adelaide Crows. I know you're interested in this one, Lynchy. Couldn't land.
No, I struggled with this one. Now, I'll get your nomination first because I think this is a valid thought.
Yeah, it has to be the skipper for me, Jordan Dawson. Yeah. I think his ability to influence the game through the midfield, he can go to half-back, he can go to the goal square. He's their most important because you've got the three tools inside the forward 50, so I think they're replaceable. If you don't have one of them there, you can get someone else. Their midfield operates reasonably strong. Their defence, I think they're still missing probably one or two pieces there, but I think for the Adelaide Crows, if you take Jordan Dawson out of that team, they're a completely different team and nowhere near as strong.
I agree.
I would probably argue for Rankin, and I know that you interviewed him post-game. Was it last week?
Did I? I can't remember.
Yeah. I know.
Old age gets...
Kingy's keen on him for the Brownlow, so it's a toss-up for me between Dawson and Rankin. I'd probably... Yeah, you can build a pretty strong case for either, I think, Yeah,
no, I struggled with that one with the Adelaide Crows. What about the Catters?
Yeah, the Catters. So we seen them yesterday. It's probably their skipper as well. I think what he's able to do now, Paddy Dangerfield, he's going to be so important for how deep they go coming out of the goal square.
I reckon clearly. Yeah, he's their barometer. Still got the power. I think heard Chris Scott after the game talking about, the worry was moving forward if he lost that power, but he hasn't lost that. And if needed, you can go into the middle of the ground, but he's a real barometer. He can ignite them and kick goals and take the game away from you in a short period of time. So, Danger for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with Danger. The other name just worth talking about, that was Bailey Smith, and we'll talk about this in the snapshot, but how good is he going this year? Like, probably the best we've ever seen him, and
I think
definite Brownlow contender as well.
I think we forgot how good he was because we haven't seen him for 18 months. He was so important to their premiership when they got up and about, wasn't he? So we haven't seen him for a period of time. And
she's going to hand out another 1,000 for smacking the ball.
Well, he may end up with a week, but
he won't get a week for that, surely.
We'll see how we go. The Hawks, who's the most important there?
Come on.
You're the Hawks man.
You're the Hawks man. Who do you reckon?
I would say if I'm a coach, I'm probably going to pick Sicily, but Jai Newcomb's another one that just controls everything through the midfield, and I think he's probably one of the top 10 best midfielders in the comp now. The other one that I was tossing up with is Carl Amon, who was massive in that fourth quarter yesterday. I think he had 20 touches and 4 score involvements. He's a gun.
Yeah, he had nearly 500 metres game, probably more in the end in that last quarter alone, which is incredible when he's breaking up.
That was extraordinary.
Yeah, I think Newcomb's a good one. I think when they played the Giants a couple of weeks ago, he couldn't get near it in that first quarter, and then once he started to get going, he sort of put the boys on his back and got him back into it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to actually speak to an AFL coach and say, what magnet would you take off?
I guess the obvious one would be Will Day, because he's been out for the last 2 weeks and they've lost. So.
Yeah. I'll go Sicily still. Premier intercept defender down back that can be moved forward. and normally converts, but didn't on the weekend. So I'll go Sicily.
We're going to leapfrog the Western Bulldogs. We've touched on them. Fremantle's an interesting one. We couldn't off air, couldn't nail it, but I think you'd have to go for the full forward. I think Tracy. I'm not sure where their goals come from in a big amount if he's not out there.
Yeah, Amos probably can fill the void there if he's got the prime target spot. I think maybe I was going Sarong or Pearce. Again, 204 centimetre centre-half back, hard to replace. Sarong, you got Brayshaw in there. But I'm going to go Sarong. Just high quality, week in, week out.
Yeah, he's a star, Sarong.
Yeah, Sarong for me as well. I think it speaks for itself what he's put together over the last few seasons. Always the leading disposal getter. So, yeah, Sarong for me.
Jumping right along to Port Adelaide, who we've seen on Sunday fall in. I think it's a clear pick. I think it's Zach Butters. I think he's the absolute barometer for them. He gets them going. He's tough. He's creative through the midfield. I think we've seen Port Adelaide in the first few weeks when he wasn't there, how disappointing they were. Once he's come back in, had the impact, and he allows Rosie to go to half-back. He allows Horne-Francis to go forward. He allows Willem Drew to get his job done. I think he gives a different dimension to him, and I think he's sorely missed when he's not there.
I reckon easy pick, Butters. So in saying that, and you would have been speculating as well, where's James Jordan go? Did you go Rosie or Butters?
I thought he'd go to Horne-Francis in the midfield.
Oh, right,
yeah. I thought he'd try and limit him. I thought, or Butters, I didn't expect him to go to half forward and play on Butters as a half backup.
I reckon it was just
on Rosie, sorry.
I reckon it was just because of the Swans' injuries and who they brought in. They brought in all these defenders that I think Jordan had to go half forward and then. But I agree with you, Butters clearly.
Yeah.
No love for your boy Ollie Wines?
Well, I think Ollie, again, it's a midfield, like a Brownlow medalist. We know how important he is. We've seen him go, unfortunately, with the heart again. So I think it's about the third time that's happened to him. Yeah. So how that plays out at the end of the season, we wish him all the best. I think he'll be fine. I think he can get surgery or something like that.
So he had surgery over the pre-season as well. From a teammate's point of view, what's the feel around the club when this goes on, or are you guys all just very comfortable that it's all under control?
Yeah, well, I wasn't there when it happened to him originally, but so I think the doctors have a pretty good handle on it. I don't think it's just a palpitation thing, and he just goes out of rhythm somewhat, I think.
Because he sat on the bench for 5 minutes and sat with the doctors.
Yeah,
and they're just talking the whole time, and then he's gone back out and lasted about 60 seconds and come off, and they said nah.
Yeah.
So, it's an intriguing thing.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with that.
No,
You've only got one heart.
But they seem very comfortable.
Yeah.
They come out at half time and said, look, point him out because of the rhythm thing, but didn't seem concerned.
Nah, so it's a watch on that one. I think it's clearly Butters, and they want to get his signature for a long period of time. I would have thought the Essendon Footy Club, I think it probably stands out for itself as well. But
easy. Don't have to spend any time on that one.
Zach Merritt.
He's a star.
Absolute star. St Kilda.
Yeah, I struggled with this one.
I found this one very easy.
Very easy.
Enlighten us.
Wilkie. I just think Wilkie's such a good player, plays on the best every week. They're under the pump. I don't know, there couldn't be anyone through the midfield. The midfield's a bit light.
Maybe not yet, but I think it might not be too far. Wanganeen Miller, I think, when he's going.
Oh, he's a star.
I think in a couple of years. I don't think yet, but I tend to agree with you, Wilkie down back.
Just Wilkie, yep.
Wanganeen Miller, I think, is a watch big time because his ability to break a game open. I think you seen. Did you see him live at Norwood? Yeah.
Oh, he put on a clinic.
Yeah.
He was exceptional and great to watch. But Wilkie.
Now this is an interesting one, Carlton, because they probably have the best spine in the competition, arguably.
Yep.
When you line it up, you've got Curnow at full forward, Mackay at centre forward, Paddy Cripps in the middle, Wiedering down back. They've probably got the best spine to Koning in the ruck. Who's the one that they can't do without?
What's your numbers tell you, Rhino?
I think if I'm a coach, I'm taking Cripper out. I don't know, Curnow as well I could entertain, but... there's probably 5 options here that you could.
There is.
You can build a case
options.
for.
I'm
Sam Walsh as well.
Yeah,
I'm taking Wiedering's name off the board.
Yeah.
If I'm the opposition coach, I'll just take him off. Very. I mean, Cripps is a superstar, obviously, but just structurally and who you replace him with, Wiedering.
It's probably a good point because I think they're not replaceable. None of those names are replaceable. But if you take him out of there, McGovern almost becomes
has to play key back.
Your number one defender.
Yeah.
Silvani does a great job, but I think you're probably right there. Wiedering's the one for Carlton that if you had an opportunity, you'd take him off and potentially open the floodgates up. Sydney Swans, the one player you'd take off the board.
The Chad, surely. Lynchy's favourite.
The Chad.
He was disappointing on the weekend.
He was.
And it's potentially, that's why, if he doesn't have the impact, Sydney can't win.
Or, well, in that, I'd like to get rid of Heaney as an oppo coach, take Heaney off the board. You could build a reasonable case on the first 6 weeks of Errol Goulden.
Yeah.
His running capabilities, and we're talking about how they can't mark the ball inside forward 50. One, a little bit of personnel, but two, ball delivery. Goulden's the one that runs and hits targets inside 50. But I'd go Heaney. I'd take Heaney off the board.
Yeah, I'll probably go. You've talked me into Goulden, I think. I think they've sorely missed him.
Yep.
Of all their injuries, he's probably the one that can run and carry and deliver it inside 50. Their entries on the weekend were deplorable, cost them the game, and then they sharpened up late and nearly pinched it. Francis, the swingman.
Well, he's been around for 10 years, I reckon.
I gave him a vote with Triple M.
Well, as far as impact on the game, absolutely.
He had 12 in the last quarter, 3 goals, and nearly kicked goal of the year when he turned him inside out.
Yeah.
Richmond.
This was tough. This was really tough.
It's hard because they're building.
You think so? I would say it's because they're rebuilding. It's got to be an experienced player that can has got some size to help the lighter bodies out.
Nankervis.
Yeah.
So with that, Nankervis.
Yeah.
So I reckon Nankervis, as his leadership, he's in the middle of the ground. He's so reliable.
He had a huge game on the weekend. He was good.
Yeah.
Well, in both their wins, he's probably been, you could argue, best player on the ground. So when he's up and going, and you take him out, who rucks?
That's Nank. Yeah, definitely.
North Melbourne.
Wardlaw or Sheasel, I think, between those two.
Yeah, again, it's...
Jeez, it's a hard
You're not
one.
taking anyone down back, that's for sure.
That's a hard one.
Yeah, because you could take... I mean, Larky, where do they find their goals if you take him off the board?
I reckon that's where I settled.
Yeah.
That if North are going to get you, it's going to need Larky to have a day. Yeah. So take him off, lot less stress, I would have thought. So I'd go Larky.
Because there's a guy like Zerha should be that guy, but he just hasn't produced what we know he can consistently.
And didn't he sign a long-term deal end of last year?
Yeah.
So,
I think Larky as well. I think Melbourne's going to pick themselves as well.
just gone.
The skipper, Maxi Gorn. When he's up and going, they're hard to beat. I know that when we were at Port Adelaide, he was the one player
You attacked him.
we circled his name on the board and it was get him, and we got him.
Yeah, you got him a couple of games in a row, I reckon. And that was, the most disappointing part about that was
His teammates.
His teammates. Because you've got this future Hall of Famer, an icon of your club, who's just carries you week in, week out, and you guys have obviously circled him. Everyone in the league knows you circled him, and you're hitting him. His teammates were nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Yeah, I think if you take him out, that was our ploy. If we take him out, we probably win this game, and we did it a couple of times and succeeded.
Yeah, you did, absolutely. Last one.
West Coast. Well,
moving on.
West Coast. Anyone jumping off the page?
Still with the theory of the type of Richmond, bigger body, I'd go still McGovern.
Yeah, I think
Just
that's important.
Again, Hall of Famer, centre half back, just to try to steer the guys and at times put the arm around some of these young guys and say, look, it'll be all right.
We've seen him go down with injury, and the Giants just opened him up completely a couple of weeks ago when he wasn't there. So that's who we think. If you've got any feedback for us, come at us. We're okay. We can take the feedback.
Don't slide in the DMs.
Lynch, you can take the feedback because he wouldn't know what X is or Instagram or
No.
Or what.
I'm sure you can pass it on.
We'll be back to wrap up the show after this. Ned's Unpopular Opinions. We're back to wrap up the show. We just touched on the one player that we can't lose, and I think we've established that we can't lose Alastair Lynch from this podcast because he is the heart and soul of the podcast. Right. So Don't you go anywhere, Lynchy. What are we looking forward to? Obviously, a massive day on, Thursday night and Friday as well, the Anzac Day. It's a special day in Australian history, so I'm sure everyone will be out there. I'm sure you will be, Lynchy and Ryan, at the dawn service, paying your respects to those that have come before us and fought for our freedoms. What are we looking forward to?
Well, that game, is it the biggest marquee game of the year, is it?
It has to be, I think.
Yeah.
You get 100,000 or thereabouts. It doesn't matter whether they're 16th, 17th, 18th on the ladder, both of them. I think you'd sell it out, and the tickets go like that, and they do it so well.
An incredible event. One of the things, I remember a lot. Darcy Moore always speaks so well post-game or pre-game, whenever they chat to him.
He's like a politician. He's very well versed.
He's really polished, nails all the points. But I think obviously that'll be a great game or great occasion. The game I'm looking forward to is GWS and the Western Bulldogs in Canberra.
Yeah.
That will be a huge game. You'd suspect Jesse Hogan doesn't come back, but this will be a cracker.
Yeah, absolute ripper. They always play good games. Those two clubs have built a bit of a tradition of doing that. Getting the Darcy Moore, I'm not sure whether it's Darcy Moore or Alastair Lynch on the microphone.
It's hard to tell, isn't it?
They're polished.
Have you been giving him pointers?
Have you given him the speaking tour?
Yeah. He's taken all my speaking talent and I left me with nothing.
Very polished.
Yeah, very polished. Yeah, right.
What about you, Ryan?
This is far from the most exciting game, but Dockers Crows on Friday night. The Crows on the road in Perth. We know their woes away from home in the white shorts, and you can take $2 for the Crows in that one. So if you're a bettor, that's a nice little game to keep an eye on. But Rocky, we got an email through from the great man Dill over the weekend about the show, and I've had a look at your email address.
This show? Yeah.
I'm not going to announce it on air, but Rocky_Cliffy. Is that an old one getting around?
It's an old email address.
Yep.
Yeah, I probably should update it to the work one and just get them sent there. But the game that I'm looking forward to is a funny one because I just want to see where they're at. Is Carlton versus the Cats?
Yeah,
because are Carlton back or are they still pretending? Are they still? They've only won the 4 games over the last, I think, 20-odd games, 2 of them being against West Coast and 2 of them being against North Melbourne. So they haven't beaten anyone.
So Sammy at the Dolphin reckons they're home.
Yeah. The well, I think we'll get a better gauge on where Carlton are at. They don't necessarily need to win that game of footy, but they need to be super competitive.
Yeah. Another very interesting game, you spoke about them earlier in the show, the Suns.
Yeah, and the Swans.
Yeah, Suns, Swans, both need a win. You'd think your Suns would be much better at home, but the Swans, I think you touched on, second half, they were much better. Started to move the ball better. They smashed the Oppo Port in clearances and contested ball and forward 50s. Just got to polish up those entries and they're a massive chance.
Polish it all up, that's for sure. Make sure you catch the snapshot as well. That is out now for all the multi-getters out there on Neds. Thanks again. See you next week, boys.
See ya.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website